Okay, hi, thank you for joining the Center for Justice in the Law Spotlight Conversation series, where we talk about topics on health, justice, and law with guests. I'm Kayla Sullwold, and I'm here with my classmate, Ella Deutsch, and we are students at Hamline University, taking the course Health, Justice, and the Law this semester. Our conversation today will be with Ashley Lovell. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here today. Honestly, it's an honor. Thank you.
So we've asked you to join us today because of your work as the program co-director of the Alabama Prison Birth Project. Can you tell us about the work you're doing for your community?
Yes, so we provide doula support, pregnancy-related programming, and lactation support to incarcerated people who are pregnant and newly postpartum inside the state prison here in Alabama, which is known as Julia Tutwiler Prison for Women. Pre-pandemic, that looked like 4 different aspects of programming. That was matching or the pairing of a professional doula or birth companion with one-on-one with any pregnant person that chose to have that support inside at no cost to that person. And that looked like one-on-one in-person meetings inside the facility with our clients, both during pregnancy and after they'd given birth. But in addition to that, we were allowed to attend the birth with them at the hospital because their family and their support people were not able to be present and not allowed to be present. And we were able to be there the day that they separated from their newborns. And the facility here in Alabama, our clients typically have 24 hours to spend with their newborn before they're taken back. So we spend that last day, doing a lot of the rituals around birth, helping them capture photos of their baby and new outfits and, praising them as they mother their child or as they parent their child through feeding, changing diapers, things like that. And then we take those photos and we make sure that we bring them to the facility soon after they return, because that's one thing that is really important to solidifying what they'd just been through, and to have that picture and those pictures, it's critical for them. So that really intense relationship built intervention is what kind of the cornerstone of the work we're doing in Tutwiler. And then, but on top of that, to create a space for them to experience this pregnancy and this very difficult postpartum period together, we do a weekly support group with both pregnant and postpartum women and people. And then at that group, we do a little bit of support, a little bit of learning about pregnancy related topics and early parenting topics and breastfeeding, lactation. And then we serve a healthy meal, because that's also something that pregnant and postpartum bodies need access to that's very difficult to get when they're locked up. So we did a family style meal for them. And then the last part, the fourth, so the group, the nutrition, and the last part was to really partner with the prison, with the facility and the healthcare company working there, to create a place and an opportunity for our clients to lactate, to continue lactation for their child if they chose that. And those that chose to do that, we would go weekly and pull the milk out of the freezer and simply go to UPS and ship it to the family caring for their babies. So even in separation, they were able to do the one thing that only they could do. And I'm saying that in past tense because the pandemic kind of shut everything down. Doulas I don't know about up in Minnesota, but in Alabama, there was only one hospital that I'm aware of in the whole state that continued to allow doulas in during the pandemic. And the hospital where our clients give birth was not allowing doulas. So that took out the in-person birth support that we provided. And then, of course, for the safety of the people inside Tutwiler, we were not allowed to come in any longer. That shut down. So all of our in-person support kind of stopped all of a sudden. And so we had to adapt pretty quickly. And what we ended up doing was mailing packets of information in to our clients, the same lessons that we would go over, but also individual letters to our one from doula to client. So one-on-one kind of letter correspondence. And we would still send coloring sheets and all of the stress relieving activities that we would do in group. We mailed those in until we were able to work with some local philanthropy to install and work with the prison to install teleconferencing equipment. So literally, like the rest of the world, when we turned to Zoom during the pandemic, the prison started Zooming too. And we were fortunate to be able to help them get the equipment to do that in 3 different locations in the prison. And so not only our doulas and our programs were able to reach inside virtually, some other nonprofits that were providing education and programming in the prison are now also able to use that equipment. And we are still able to transport the milk. So the couple of women that we've had that have lactated during the COVID shutdown, with the help of the healthcare workers in the prison, we are able to still pick up that milk and ship it. So those are kind of the nuts and bolts of what our program looks like.
Awesome. Quick question. After the pandemic started, were they still able to spend the 24 hours with their babies?
The ones that gave birth were, yes, they were. But so it depends on how the birth goes. So if the baby is taken to the NICU, then they're subject to like being able to go visit in the NICU during certain visiting hours, and so that really cuts down on the amount of time that they're able to spend. But yes, they were able to have that 24 hours with their babies. And if they have a surgical birth, a cesarean, they do recover at the hospital for 48 hours. So they get an extra day in the hospital when they have a cesarean.
Okay. So one question for you is, how does your work connect to our theme this year of health justice and the law? Oh,
wow. I would say in every way, honestly. The people that we serve, the clients that we serve, we like to, think of them as 2 parts of a whole. It's a dyad of parent-child or mother-child. And beyond that, also the family that takes care of the children of our clients, both the ones that have already been born and the ones that will be born. And so those clients, they're at an intersection kind of all of these multiple systems. And they find themselves in the maternity care system, right? And then the criminal justice system, and then there's the child welfare system and mental health, substance use. It's a web. And for the vast majority of them, they've been entrapped in these systems prior to us meeting them. And some of them for the very first time when we meet them. These systems, they're not fair. They're unjust to women of color, and pregnant people of color. And we know that the law itself is applied unequally to women and non-binary people. The data do reflect this. Longer sentences for similar crimes are handed down to women. And I would even go farther to say that in a lot of cases, a pregnant person or a pregnant woman is more harshly judged in our court system. And I think many sentences are, given out with the idea that if we put this pregnant person in jail, that's a safer place for them than the streets, or than, where they they won't have access to substances if they have a use disorder or chemical dependency. And the reality is that that's not the case in most carceral settings. There is access to all of that as well. So everything we do is at that intersection of justice and health and the law.
Yeah, great. So I was wondering, as a doula, how do you and your organization address the maternal mortality rates that are higher in Black women and women of color disproportionately?
Yes, you don't work as a doula for long before you quickly see the biases and the oppression and the systemic racism in our healthcare system. It's there. Marginalized pregnant people, people of color, incarcerated people, they're all subjected to, in some cases, indifference, even fear, and definitely bias from, not all healthcare providers, but definitely some healthcare providers. And they're not even maybe conscious of that. And so this work that we're doing kind of shows us the best folks and the worst folks, and you know, in addition to working in a maternity care system that's kind of dysfunctional, you know, that intersection of all those other dysfunctional systems, you know, it's bringing more toxic stress to a body that is gestating another life. And so what we do is we're working really hard, and as our organization, one of our values is to really bring in directly impacted people into our program that do the work, that provide the direct services to our clients, that lead us in our organization's mission and direction. And so we have doulas of color that have been incarcerated, and we have a doula who's one of their family members was born to a mother who was incarcerated. And those doulas are matched with clients who have the same background or are culturally relevant match, so that our clients tell us, you know, the number one most important need that they have going through this experience is to not do it alone. And before we were there, that's what they felt like they were doing. And so if you have a doula that looks like you, that's experienced something very similar to what you're experiencing, walking beside you through that experience, I can't think of another way to make it less, I mean, you know, it's a lonely experience overall, but it's less lonely when someone understands what you're going through and they're right next to you the whole time.
That's great, yeah.
How does your work connect to our spring theme of reproductive justice?
Okay, so reproductive justice, right? Let's just define that. It's just the ability to self-determine if, when, how you will become a parent or start a family, and whatever that family looks like, right? And in theory, every person has the right to determine that, all of those things. In reality, we know that's not the case, both for people outside of prison walls and especially for people in prison walls. And so in addition to maybe deciding not to want to be a parent or not to become a parent, many of our clients are facing wanting to be a parent, wanting to be a mother, and being stripped of that identity, because how easy is it to mother when you're physically separated from your child? How easy is it to mother when you can't breastfeed your child? So while we can't really change that all at once, with slow pushes of change from within, kind of move things in the right direction, the fact that we're there kind of interjecting a space for that identity to remain, if that's the identity that the person wants. Do they want to identify as a mother? We're creating the space for them to do that, even if it's just 2 hours a week for them to come in. We know their children. We see pictures of their babies. We're there when their babies take their first breath. So they can come into that room and know that in this space, everyone knows my child and knows I'm a mother to my child. And so I would say the reproductive justice work that we're doing is creating the space for them to keep that identity. And, you know, on the outside, when they leave, they're facing, you know, losing custody of their children to the child welfare system, and not being able to afford or create a stable, safe environment for their child. And so wrapping around them as they go back into community is another way. That's reproductive justice work, because if they want to keep their family together, they might need assistance in finding a stable place to live, or finding mental health care, or meeting all of the requirements that maybe a child welfare caseworker has set forth. And so it's really giving them the best chance at that self-determination, again, is what we're trying to do.
Great, yeah. And I can imagine all that's very important when they're going back and they're reconciling with their children. And the doulas, after parents, the mothers, are able to reconcile their kids, are you still able to be a part of their lives and still be a part of their journeys?
Yes. So fortunately, we don't have any restrictions placed on us. When someone reaches back out to us after they've been released, we're able and allowed to talk to them and interact with them and continue to provide support. Some carceral facilities their policy is to not allow that. But thankfully, Alabama knows they need all of the help, and support that they can give. And the doula has already developed this relationship with them. So she's someone that she can, turn to, talk to, companion her client, through this very challenging re-entry period. And so I would say we don't reach out to them. We let them come to us if that's what they want to do. Some people don't want to revisit the time that they were pregnant and locked up. They don't want to think about it, and they don't want to reach out to us. But we keep all of the photographs from the birth. So when they get out, they can only have 15 when they're in, but when they get out, they can reach out to us, and we will send them the hundreds of pictures that we've taken. And so I'd say about half of them, do that, reach out to us, and we're able to keep up with how they're doing. And if they need some assistance, we've been able to do that a little bit as well.
Do you think that what you guys do with the breast milk, like shipping it out to the families, helps the mother have more of a connection with their child when they get out?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's what they've told us very, very clearly. Like, when I stop whatever I'm doing and go to that pumping room and sit, I have to think about my baby. I have to think about what's my baby. Is he or she asleep right now? How much does he or she weigh? Does he or she sleep well at night? And here I am doing the one thing. I can do more than that, but this is the one thing only I can do for my baby. This is the maternal giving of nutrition that I can give. And that, at more than any other time, they're thinking about their child, and they know that they're doing something unique for their child that no one else can. And so they'll tell me that they bless the milk, they pray over it before they put it in the freezer. And yes, that's kind of the whole point of the lactation program. Even if it's 2 drops, it's a connection. So we encourage it, and we have some that choose not to do that, and we completely understand that, and we meet them where they are. But we've had about 70% of the people that are eligible to participate in that part of the program do. And anywhere from, a week's worth of pumping to 6 months. And some of them are producing enough to exclusively feed their babies their breast milk.
That's awesome.
That's really cool.
How can we support or elevate the work that you guys do?
Oh, we are working hard as an organization. Am I okay on time? We're working hard to really think outside of the box when it comes to traditional philanthropy funding our work, and getting communities involved in helping us do the work. And so we're doing a lot in that respect. But what I think the most important thing, and this kind of ties into like a call to action for everyone, is, how many people knew about pregnancy and incarceration before this live? It's something that people are seeming to pay more and more attention to, but even people that work in healthcare and professional birth workers are not stopping to think that there are pregnant people around the world that are locked up. And we can be creative and do something better than that for people, honestly. And so I would just say, anyone that's watching, you probably live in a county that has a county jail. Almost every county in the US has a county jail or a detention facility. And you pay taxes that go to support that facility. And so asking questions about how it's run are not only your right, but really your civic duty. And so pick up the phone and call the jail administrator and say, how many pregnant people are there right now? Are they getting WIC? I know their babies need that nutrition. Are they getting that WIC? How can we get the WIC to the babies and the moms, and how, are they receiving, good health care? Are they being restrained in some way? Are they getting their prenatal vitamins? Because we know that if somebody's invisible, if they're not seen or heard from, then there's no accountability. But if we just pick up a phone or turn a spotlight on something, it tends to improve. Conditions around that tend to improve. And And we know this even just like when we look at cesarean rates and per like hospital or per practitioner, just asking the question, what are your cesarean rates, has actually had the impact of bringing them down. Because, oh, I wasn't thinking about that. Oh, that's right. Pregnant people do need more nutritional foods than we can provide in a regular gel setting. How can we solve that problem? It's not rocket science. Like, it's not hard to make the conditions and the environment better for people who are gestating, and are incarcerated. Ideally, they won't be there at all. Like, we'll be happy the day that we don't have to be prison doulas anymore. That would be amazing. But until we're there, it's not hard. Just pick up the phone and call. We don't know, because that's the thing. We don't know how many people are locked up and pregnant right now. We have an estimate based on 1 year data collection of, where facilities volunteered to participate in that. But they were mostly larger federal prisons and state prisons. We don't know about those little tiny county jails. We don't know. So that's my call to action for everyone, is to pick up the phone and call and ask.
Yeah.
And then I'm curious on what helped you to change your career? Like, what helped you decide that you wanted to change your career and start being a prison doula and helping these women?
Well, I'd say it probably comes back to the day that I gave birth to my second child, and I had a doula at that birth supporting me. And that made such a huge difference in my experience of becoming a new mom, that I wanted to do that for other women. And especially having two girls, as you know, I gave birth to two girls, and I went through a maternity care system that was less than stellar, and I wanted something different for them and something different for all women. And then I had a client who experienced a late term loss, and I watched her. I'll never forget the day that I walked out of the hospital beside her and she had nothing to hold on to. And that has always haunted me. And so I started learning more about bereavement doula work. And I had grown up with a cousin who was incarcerated almost his entire life. And my mother would sit in her dining room and write long letters for hours to him and call the wardens of all the facilities where he was locked up and advocate for him. And when the opportunity came up to provide maybe some type of pregnancy programming in Tutwiler, they were actually looking for that service for the women who were pregnant behind bars. So the opportunity to do really bereavement doula work for somebody that is invisible, I don't think anybody can walk away from that opportunity. And so it really wasn't a decision so much as it was a force pushing me that way, that it's just everything pointed, this is what we need to be doing here. This, you can't unknow something once you know it. You see that something is wrong and you can't unknow that. So we were able to, all of us together formed this group. Chantel, the co-director, and myself from the beginning, we just built it, and we used the Minnesota Prison Doula Project as a model, and they generously offered their advice and support. But we were also working with, leadership that was looking for a change in a system that needed to be changed, and that the timing of it all came together. So it was just astoundingly, you couldn't not do it, even if you didn't want to, but of course we wanted to. So.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about why the jail was looking for doula work specifically? Did they give you specific reasons, or they just saw the need there?
Yeah. So they had a pretty dismal history and track record for providing constitutional care for the women in Tutwiler for decades. There had been complaints and then a formal investigation about abuse of women in the facility, mainly sexual abuse, and in any environment of deprivation, people do what they have to survive, and that extreme power imbalance was not leading to anything good. At the same time, I think the corrections industry as a whole was kind of realizing through research that incarcerating women is, and people that identify as women, that is a different thing than incarcerating men. Women are more relational creatures, and you can actually incarcerate them in a very different way and create a safer environment. So that's called gender responsive programming. And then also that a lot of the women that are inside prisons are, traumatized and have experienced trauma in their life, 90%. So taking into consideration that we need to be gender responsive and trauma informed as we try to rehabilitate people in this facility, one place to start is to provide pregnancy related programming support, because they saw pregnant women, at least 25 to 30 babies born every year to women inside Tutwiler. And I guess that's kind of one place to make a change, or to start to try to make a change. And I think bringing just that programming in has led to other changes in the facility as well. And we love seeing that. We love seeing, officers at the birth, remembering the baby's name, or, help pushing the food tray over so the mother can reach it while she's holding her baby. I think correctional officers want us there because they were so torn. Like, their job is safety, security, and it's very kind of just surreal to be in a room when a new life is being born, and to need to, want to be a part of that, and also to maintain, safety, security. And so to have somebody else in the room whose job it is to take care of the mom through that experience is just, they're glad we're there, and they're great. They understand the importance of what's happening, and to create that special space around it so that it's less traumatizing.
You can go ahead.
Go, Ella.
I was just going to say thank you so much for being here with us today and having this conversation with us. We really appreciate your time and your knowledge.
Yeah, that's great. And I wish both of you the very best of luck in the rest of your undergraduate education. I hope to see you again soon. Thanks for helping us talk about what's happening in the US and other places in the world.
Yeah, I so appreciate this. I was actually going to mention I've been seeing a lot on TikTok recently, women coming out and sharing their stories of giving birth in prison, and I saw a YouTube video on it, and so it's definitely something that's being talked about a lot more. And I knew this unit was coming up, so when I saw it, I was like, oh, that's so cool that this came up, and I hadn't even looked into it yet. So I think it's really amazing the work that you guys are doing, and that we're able to help this advocacy so that more people can know about it and have.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. And I will say that we actually are just privileged for being able to do it. And we're very grateful for the opportunity to do it. But oh my goodness, now I have to join TikTok. And I'll
see if I can find it, and I can send you the link over email, because that was such a very cool video. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so be sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook for everyone watching. Our next spotlight is next Thursday, April 8th, with Autumn Mason, and they will be talking about actually giving birth in prison, and that will be from 11:30 to 12.
Fantastic.